compelling message will you and your campaign present to the people of Ohio in order to energize the independent voters as well as the Democrats?
If you think about an independent voter, and I can tell you as your Secretary of State, an independent voter means they're independent of a party. That means they don't want to follow a particular party line and they value independent judgment. Independent judgment oftentimes requires courage because you know you're going to make somebody mad. But hey, I have lots of experience making people mad after the 2008 election. Sometimes people on the left and the right were mad at me, so I guess I knew I was on the right track. So with one thing clearly that I've learned in this campaign, and I think we saw it played out and it validated what we've been trying to do with this campaign, is that we have to change the way that we campaign. We have to change the way that we elect people to office. We have so many more tools available to us, like the internet, that are the great equalizer, that allows so many people not only access to check out the authenticity of a candidate, but also to give them their points of view. I like to actually read the blogs. I like to blog back with people who are making comments. And with the independent voters, what my sense that they respect is someone with an independent mind who's willing at times to go against their party if that's what's necessary, but who will stand on principle and who will fight for what they believe is right, and especially when it comes to fighting for things that matter to people and the issues that are at the center of their lives.
What compelling message do you and your campaign have to energize all those independents out there, as well as the Democratic faithful?
Well, I think the message is this. Every couple years, candidates tell you that this is the most important election in your lifetime. I've said that a few times. But here's the deal. Each time it was true. And it's true now. I am absolutely convinced the history books are going to have more than one chapter on what's happening in the world and America right now. And I want to energize our base and tell them that we won a wonderful victory with the election of Barack Obama. But that victory is shallow and it is hollow if we do not hold on to the principles of that campaign and of that candidate and that president. And we don't stay in the arena and not give up, because the base of those who lost in 2008, they're energized. If we are not energized equally, we will lose the chance to shape history. And that's a big deal, not to us, but to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation of that. So I say, let's take the energy and the commitment and the enthusiasm that we saw unprecedented in my lifetime with Barack Obama. And if we really meant it, and it just wasn't something to do, we're going to redouble our efforts, triple our efforts, and make sure that we have a United States Senator, a governor, and other statewide officials who are committed to progressive values, to saving jobs, creating jobs, and building a future for Ohio and America that moves us literally to the head of the class.
Will you campaign in the African American community before the last 2 weeks?
Yes, I will, and I've actually already been doing that, and I've attended a number of church services, and I thoroughly enjoy that. Unfortunately, when I served as a judge and I handled my criminal docket, more than half of the people that were coming before me in the court were people of color, and not reflective of the overall population. But I enjoy working with people from all walks of life and look forward to campaigning vigorously in the African American community.
Will you campaign in the African American community before the last 2 weeks?
Well, that's an easy one. And the reason it's an easy one is that I have been campaigning in the African American community for a long time. When I was a state senator, more than 50% of my district was people of color, primarily but not exclusively African American. My wife is the president and CEO of an organization in Cleveland called the Diversity Center that focuses on teaching young children, middle school, high school, and young professionals the value of diversity, embracing it, not just tolerating it. And I was privileged when I was a state senator to write Ohio's hate crime law. that says that if you commit a crime against someone because of the color of their skin or their religion or their ethnic origin, that's just not a crime against that person or that family. That's a crime against society and deserves stiffer punishment. And then I had the rare privilege of defending the constitutionality of that law that I'd written years later when I was Attorney General. So I've worked closely with many in the African American community throughout my whole life, including my 7 years at the Center for Families and Children, and I guarantee you, I will not be campaigning the last 2 weeks. I'll be campaigning on a regular basis, as I have been for many years, in the African American community.
If you were a senator right now, how would you want the Democrats to get health care reform passed after yesterday's loss in Massachusetts?
First and foremost, what I heard coming out of Massachusetts is that people objected to the process. And having been Secretary of State, so much of what I do is to make sure I ensure a fair process. And when you have two different bills and you try to reconcile them behind closed doors, that first and foremost makes people suspect. People already have a lot of problems with concessions made to Ben Nelson in Nebraska that even Arnold Schwarzenegger does, if you saw his interview on one of the Sunday morning talk shows. So they're going to have to sit down, and it would be better to not delay. As much as we all as Democrats might like to see that there's some maneuvering going on so that they could keep Scott Brown from coming into the Senate and try to co-opt a Republican vote that's not Joe Lieberman's vote into the 60 votes that they need, we would be better to be forthright and move ahead and let people see what the process is. I'm concerned that if we try to force it through behind closed doors, and not to say that we back off, because sometimes you have to push even when you know it's going to be unpopular, but we've got to make sure that people can see the process. I had to teach boards of elections over and over again that if you want to avoid litigation, if you want to avoid extreme controversy, you have to open up the process so people can see it, because if people can see it, they'll trust it more. Frankly, I think we would be, it may be more palatable to go back to where they were in the Senate about opening up and extending Medicare to more people as a good starting point. Again, it's unfathomable to me that the Senate, 59 other Democrats would capitulate to one Joe Lieberman who says, "Oh, now I don't want to extend Medicare, but I did before."
Let's pretend you don't have to worry about the election. You're elected. You're a senator already. Given what happened last night, what do you think the strategy should be with Democrats in passing health care reform?
Number one, don't give up. Passing legislation is a very difficult process. I know, because I did it for 10 years. And it takes persistence even more than patience. So I would say that while the path has become more difficult in the last 24 hours, it is no reason to give up. Back in 1965, there were many people who thought that we should not have a federal system of health insurance. And if people had given up, we would not have Medicare today. Back in the 1930s, there were people who felt that having Social Security was an unnecessary safety net, and if they'd given up, we wouldn't have Social Security today. This is a less than perfect bill, whether you're looking at the House or the Senate version, but it's also an historic opportunity. I agree with Jennifer that the process must be transparent and open, but I also believe we must do everything we can to convince not just fellow U.S. senators, but the American people that literally the health of their family members can hang in the balance, and that we should not focus on those parts of the bill that divide us. We should focus on those parts of the bill that says you can't be denied coverage because of pre-existing illness or because you lose your job. We should focus on those parts of the bill that provide insurance to millions of people today who don't have that right. So I say the lesson is you may have to come up with different strategies, but the goal is still there and you never give up.